Hey, I'm Sith King.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
Dun, 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 dun.
That goes down again.
Oh.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, you will get... Well, that was the Song of Gargoyles.
Yeah.
Today's pick.
Yes. So we watched seasons 1 and 2, even though the second season is 52 episodes. So really that's like... I mean, I don't know how they categorize these things. But those are the only seasons that matter.
Yeah, apparently season 3 was not made with the creative team of the first two seasons and is considered non-canon by Greg Weisman.
They even changed the
creator.
name. They called it the Goliath Chronicles. Yeah.
Yep. But that's not important. What is important is that this was a really damn good show.
Yeah, this was, like, especially for the 90s, right? Surprisingly dark and complex for a kids' show. To name one example off the top of my head, one of our main characters is playing around with a gun and shoots another main character accidentally. And this is like a serious thing if I don't play with guns.
Yeah, and it wasn't like she just walked it off like you usually see characters do when they get shot with guns. No, this wasn't like, oh, it's a laser blast. It was, no, she got shot with a bullet. She nearly dies. She's in intensive care, and, you know, her family comes to see her.
And then, several episodes later, we see that she is keeping the gun in a lockbox like you should, and not just in the holster on your jacket. Continuity! I mean, back then, that was a revolutionary idea.
Yeah, but we should get started. That's sort of the beginning. I say sort of the beginning
Because, let's just put it this way, this show gets complex, so we're going to be summarizing a lot of it. And time travel's involved, so we're starting where the show starts. In the year 994, in Scotland, trust me, you'll get used to this location, it shows up a lot.
It's the only place that happened in the past.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry, I'm just looking up episode lists so we can do things.
Yeah, anyways, there is a castle in Scotland that's getting attacked by Vikings, as one does.
But the Lord of the Castle is like, oh, it's okay. We just need to hold off for just a little while longer
Because it's going to be night soon. And as soon as night falls, suddenly all of the stone gargoyles on the castle's parapets burst to life, becoming flesh before everyone's very eyes and defending the castle.
That was a cool moment. They will really play up the coolness of the gargoyle transformation in every episode ever. But still, it's cool, so there you go.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And then once it's done, it's revealed that the main gargoyle, Goliath, is voiced by Keith David, and thus he's better than you. No, I'm serious, he's better than you, Jeffrey. Yes, we know you're watching, Jeffrey. Goliath is better than you, Jeffrey. But aside from how much better Goliath is than Jeffrey...
Okay.
The show already starts out complex. We introduce his love interest, who doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
Actually, none of the gargoyles, save for Goliath, have a name.
Mm-hmm.
And we also see that there's some tension in the air between the humans and the gargoyles, which is going to be one of the main thrusts of the series' conflicts.
Yeah.
The leadership of the castle, the princess in charge, is like, dude, I'm terrified of gargoyles. Don't make them eat in here with me. Make them eat outside. Despite the fact that other people in the castle are also scared of gargoyles, despite the fact that they just saved their asses, so, you know, these are a bunch of ungrateful shitheads. So, but it turns out that the captain of the guard is also, you know, kind of pissed on behalf of the gargoyles and wants revenge. So it turns out that he works with the Vikings, tells them the secret of the gargoyles, and then gets Goliath and his companion, who doesn't have a name yet, to leave the castle for a little while.
You could just call her Demona, you know. Like, eventually, she will be named Demona.
Yeah, but in this case I was talking about Hudson, so...
Oh, wait. The I'm sorry. I mixed up with which companion you meant. So, Hudson, yeah.
No, actually, the other companion I was talking about was Rose. You know, and then Martha.
Yes.
And then Dada.
There's a whole... Time travel is everywhere, so you never know in the documentary.
Yeah. But it turns out that everyone was betrayed. The only ones who... the castle was ransacked. The Vikings killed pretty much everyone and smashed all the gargoyles who were there, except for some that hid in the basement, because they were told to hide in the basement. So Goliath is really fucking pissed when he comes back to the castle and swears revenge. You'll find this is another common motif of the show. Goliath has a temper.
Well, also everyone wants revenge. It's not just Goliath. There's a lot of revenge in this show.
Yep. So, moving right along, they find the camp, and the royal enchanter, who has proven to be useless so far, gets pissed because he thinks that the Vikings killed the princess, and the wizard is in love with the princess, and so he curses the gargoyles and not the Vikings for some reason.
I'm not entirely clear on this.
Yeah, he blames the gargoyles for failing to save the princess, despite the fact that, everything is stacked against them. And he curses the surviving gargoyles to remain stone until the castle is above the clouds. So basically, he's killing them. Goliath is pissed when he finds this out, and he is then also turned to stone at his own request. So this is basically suicide. Except that 1,000 years later, this guy named David Xanatos shows up, buys the castle, and transports it to the top of a skyscraper in New York City, as one does.
He's very wealthy. Did we mention? He has all the money.
We're talking like Jeff Bezos levels of wealth. Except I don't think Jeff Bezos was as rich as Xanatos.
Probably not.
Definitely not as smart. See, Xanatos is a guy who does plans. As in on TV tropes, to this day, there is a thing called the Xanatos Gambit, which stands for you make a plan where no matter what the outcome is, you win. Mm-hmm. And he pulls this off all the time. Mm-hmm. He is a genius. Mm-hmm. I love him, even though he's a jackass sometimes. He's also voiced by William Riker. There's a lot of Star Trek The Next Generation voices in this.
Everywhere. We got Worf, we got Riker, we got
Deanna Troi. Yeah. Spock is Data.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, once the castle is lifted above the clouds and the sun sets, the gargoyles are set free in the modern year of 1994. Yeah, so about 26 years ago. I don't like that that's a true statement. They're free and they start trying to figure stuff out, and they find a woman snooping around the castle. Turns out that this is Elisa Mazza, one of the other main characters. She's a detective as part of the police force of New York City, which you'd think that they would be used to really weird shit happening by now, considering that this is the same city that has Ninja Turtles living in the sewers and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But no, somehow gargoyles are weirder.
Yeah.
Oh, please. I've been on the subways in New York. You have weirder shit in the subways of New York than the gargoyles. Anyways. Then it turns out that, hey, we should give ourselves names so we know who each other is. Because they're in a new time. They need to identify each other. I don't really remember why they give each other names.
The idea that they don't have names is kind of an interesting cultural notion until you realize what a difficult cultural notion that must be. You have to, Goliath has to refer to Demona as Angel of the Night for a while. And when we encounter Cold Stone and these other ones, they have to be called things like the Evil One and those two who
Rookery
are in love
Brother
and things like that. So
it's cool culturally, but it doesn't really work for the animated show format, so they have to give each other names.
Yeah.
The dog-like one is Bronx, I think.
Yeah.
There's one that's red and has a beak, and his name is Brooklyn. There's a small green one with bat-like wings. Under his arms instead of on his back. His name is Lexington, and for some reason he's the tech guy, because it should be easy for Lexington to understand technology 1,000 years in the future. When the most advanced when the most advanced technology is the ballista, that you should not be able to get hacking this easily. I like to think that there's at least a few steps in the skill tree between Stone Age and Cyber Age.
You would think.
Yeah. There's Broadway, who is big, fat, green, and speaks with the voice of Patrick from SpongeBob SquarePants. One of them, the eldest of the gargoyles, says, "You can't give me a name. That would be like naming that river over there." Lisa just looks over and says, "That's the Hudson River." To which he goes, Fine, I guess I'm Hudson then.
So he is.
Yeah. Then David Xanatos shows up and he said, "Hey, I saved you guys. How about you do me a couple favors? Oh, by the way, here's this lady, this gargoyle lady, your mate, Goliath. Her name is Demona. And so, totally normal thing to do is I found out that there was a curse on you guys, and I moved this castle to the top of a skyscraper in the middle of New York. The simplest, obvious solution. So, you know, how about you do me a few favors, and then we'll call it even. You know, and it's not much. Just need you to commit industrial espionage."
Well, what he claims is that these people stole some stuff from me. So, or the people actually do show up and apparently steal stuff.
Yeah, but
we don't know if they're
Xanatos
stealing
doing
it back, or yeah, whatever the heck was going on.
Yeah. So eventually they go to 3 different places to steal 3 different discs that Xanatos claims will revolutionize the world for humans and gargoyles. One is in an island spire, one is in a secret underground bunker, and the third is in the SHIELD helicarrier, except somehow worse.
There's a lot of sheared helicarriers in this show.
Yeah, there's
or if not
2.
full-on helicarriers, then like
There's
whatever.
2, but there's lots of hovercraft and stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird. But, yeah, so they do, and Demona reveals that she's kind of turned into a bit of a bitch in the meantime, and wants to just kill all the humans. You know, the Bender directive.
She's the Magneto of this series, I guess.
Yep. Then they talk to Elisa, and she says, "Hey, those discs weren't actually Xanatos's. They belong to the company Cyberbiotics. And, yeah, you just committed some espionage. And also, Goliath, you have a tracking beacon on your back, and I don't know how you didn't notice that." And then Xanatos goons try to kill them both. Because that is what you do when you... Seriously, I do not Okay, Xanatos is known for his brilliant schemes. This one I do not understand.
He
Step 1.
manipulated them into stealing shit for him. That was easy enough, right?
Okay, but why did he need to break a curse on 1,000-year-old gargoyles in order to get these guys to do these robberies for him? Why doesn't he just pay someone? It probably would have been cheaper than building a sky castle.
Yes, but he's the curious type. I can respect that. Let's see what's up with these.
I'm just saying, there could have been easier ways to deal with this, Zanny boy. Yeah, so... Because Elisa protected him while he was in his stone sleep, it turns out that reaffirms the bond between human and gargoyle, and he deeply respects her now. And then they go and they fight Xanatos, who now has killer gargoyle robots and Demona with a laser rifle. Mm-hmm. Because Xanatos is made of financially sound decisions.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that the reason Xanatos is so rich is that he patented air.
Yeah.
Everyone owes
invention.
Everyone owes him $1 every time they breathe. That's the only way I can explain how he spends this much and then does such dumb things with them sometimes.
Everyone's just in terrible debt. They're like, yeah, it's your own fault. You should breathe less.
Yeah, so the gargoyles win, and Elisa has proof that Xanatos stole the discs. So Xanatos actually goes to prison at the end of the pilot film.
But he's like totally cool with that, because of course he is, because he's got secret plans.
Yep. Jesus, and that was just one episode.
That was 5 episodes.
Okay, it was a 5-part episode.
Yeah.
But every episode feels like it drops a new bombshell.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about the first 3 episodes after the pilot is that they kind of establish things that resonate throughout the rest of the series. Thrill of the Hunt is the next episode, where Xanatos hires a bunch of thrill seekers to, kill the gargoyles, but they're masquerading as a group of TV hunters. Lexington is like, wow, these guys look amazing. We need to find allies in this new world. Well, when they betray him, for the entire rest of the series, Lexington always has a chip on his shoulder regarding these hunters, the pack.
Right. Continuity. They invented it in the 90s.
And even better, even though Lexington is like, I should never have trusted them, Goliath takes back his own words, because earlier he was like, no, we shouldn't trust anyone. We're all that we need. He's like, no, you were right earlier. We are alone in this world, and just because we might get burned every once in a while if we reach out to seek help doesn't mean we should stop doing it.
Yeah.
Which
it could be really
theme of the
easy.
show.
As SF Debris put it, it could have been really easy to say, "Oh, Goliath is always right. We should always listen to Goliath and never go against him." But no, it shows Goliath is fallible and he's made mistakes. The next episode, Temptation, Demona really badly betrays Brooklyn. And for the rest of the series, he's always the first to say we should never trust Demona and we should kick her ass when it comes up. And the next one is the one we mentioned about Elisa getting shot by Broadway.
Yeah, they're bold enough to do that very early in the run.
Yeah, and for the rest of the series, Broadway is always way more sensitive around guns and likes to break them.
Nah. I don't suppose we should go through every single one of these ones.
No, I'm not going to go through every single one. I'm picking these to show how,
Okay.
But see, the thing is that each of these episodes have consequences well beyond that. The pack episodes, turns out that each member of the pack has their own individual personalities and characters that would show up in different episodes. Fox eventually becomes Xanatos' wife and has her own whole character arc.
Yeah, well, that was one of my favorite Xanatos gambits, is this guy named Coyote in power armor breaks in to help break the pack out, but Fox refuses to be with them and in fact tries to help the guards apprehend her own former accomplices. But that doesn't work. They get out anyway, and then Coyote's like, "Hey, actually, I'm Xanatos wearing power armor. I need you for a scheme to help me kill the Gargoyles." And then when they fail at that, it turns out actually Coyote is just a Xanatos-shaped robot programmed by Xanatos so that when you defeat him, he's not actually dead. And actually, what he's actually up to is that whole bit where Fox is helping the guards subdue the prisoners is so that she can pass her parole review board so she can just walk out the front door because Xanatos is dating her. So he wins anyway. That's a Xanatos gambit.
Well, no, I mean, sort of, but and in the one option, he gets rid of the Gargoyles. Good. Mm-hmm. Some of his obstacles are gone. In option 2, the Gargoyles win. Well, he lost an expendable robot and some crooks who were going to go to jail anyway. And his girlfriend goes out. No matter what happens, you win. Yeah, but that's like every Xanatos episode. And then episode 9, frickin' Macbeth from the Shakespeare play shows up, and he's a character because he's frickin' immortal, because of course he fucking is. And he also hunts gargoyles for fun.
Everyone hunts gargoyles, I feel like. It's just a lot of those.
Let's see. Next episode, Xanatos gets a Goliath suit. It's like Iron Man armor, except it's in the shape of Goliath. I'd say something about a furry, but no.
Okay.
Just every episode has repercussions that reverberate through the rest of the series for the most part.
Yeah, I'm actually scrolling through an episode list.
Yeah, it's honestly hard to...
It's just like... So I think there's Elisa's brother gets metamorphosized into this animal hybrid thing, and then he doesn't trust Elisa. He's getting manipulated himself.
And then we have a different thing that happened. Disney apparently was really insistent on pushing out episodes. Part of it was that it took a while to create some of the episodes. So after the pilot movie, they couldn't... The Gargoyles production team couldn't exactly get them out, so they were stuck with reruns of the first 5 episodes for, weeks.
Yeah.
Eventually, the showrunners were like, okay, this doesn't work because we're getting reruns all the time. What we're going to do is create a new system called tiers and tentpoles. How that works is that we have a few episodes that are solid. You have to have them in place. But the episodes that take place between them can be shuffled around out of order.
Yeah, because back in the day, remember live TV, you had to worry about what was being broadcast when?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what makes it all the more an accomplishment that they have a sense of continuity in this show, because you had to work for it back in the day when you couldn't just assume people would watch things in order. Just saying.
Which makes the second season very interesting to watch, because you get a really important episode and then a couple episodes that develop the characters of the characters involved, and then you get another really important, maybe multi-part episode. But the cost of this was that the second season was 52 episodes long when the first one was 12.
Or 13, according to this thing.
Okay, 13, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, okay, so eventually it turns out that back in the day there was... Oh, jeez, I don't even know how to begin to frickin' describe it, but turns out that the princess and the wizard from back in the day ran away to this magical place called Avalon with all the surviving gargoyle eggs from the castle back in the first episode, and they've been living there for years because time runs slower in Avalon than it does in reality. And so they have to go... Goliath and Eliza and Bronx go there to stop an evil wizard that they'd stopped in an earlier episode because time travel is a thing, and the wizard created a predestination paradox to make himself all-powerful. Because shut up, of course he did.
Meanwhile, Xanatos also creates a predestination paradox to make himself super rich in the future.
Yeah, okay. So what he did was he set up a series of events that Goliath and Demona would be like his best men. Demona would be like the best girl or whatever.
Yeah.
When he gets married to Fox. And as part of the wedding gift, he brings along his father, and they bring both halves of something that causes time travel when put together. And they go back in time to back before Castle Wyvern was destroyed. Xanatos gets a single penny as a reward for saving the queen. Then he uses his connections to the Illuminati, because of course he has connections to the Illuminati, and of course the Illuminati are real. Why would you think otherwise? To make it so that he sends a message to his younger self containing that penny, and that penny is worth thousands of dollars in the modern day, so he sells that penny in the modern day to start his path to getting his fortune. The second part of his message from the Illuminati indicates all the steps in how he managed to make this plan happen, and so he sets it up himself so that he gets back from the past. This is a thing.
Yeah.
It's all played completely seriously. This is not meant as a joke. This is just something that Xanatos does. He just casually violates the rules of space-time.
He makes a point about being a self-made man. Like, literally, but he set this up from the future. Got it.
Okay. But anyways, the wizard set up a predestination paradox, but once he's defeated, we get to what I consider one of the weaker parts of the show, the World Tour arc. See, Avalon doesn't really like to let people go home. Why is that? Because fuck you, that's why. Mm-hmm. But it sends you back to wherever you're needed, not wherever you're trying to go.
It's basically wherever the writers have a good idea for an episode, there you shall go.
It's not really so much writers have a good idea for an episode so much as it is, hey, this would make a good idea for a spin-off.
Well,
Of the like 12 or so episodes, a third of them are based on what I could consider spin-offs.
Like backdoor pilots.
Yeah. But it does a good job of setting up what is the next arc, which is The Gathering, which involves the Queen and King of the Fairies have decided to return to Avalon and are trying to get all the fairies all the Oberon's children people to come back because Oberon wants his family back again. Except it turns out that Fox is the daughter of Titania, an immortal man, and their son is like quarter fae, and he has magic potential, so Xanatos and everyone he knows goes to war against Oberon so that he doesn't take the child, and everything works out in the end.
Yeah, fight against the King of Fairies was a big deal. I can only assume no one in New York happened to see any of that.
He put them all to sleep.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
Sleep! Oh, I should mention that Oberon has about the same level of volume control as Brian Blessed.
Hey, that's a good thing to have, right? As a king? Maybe, hopefully. I don't know.
Sort of. There's like so many different freaking plot points in this show, like Xanatos and his relationship with Fox, Elisa and her romance story with Goliath, I said I had several, but I can't think. Like Xanatos' quest for immortality.
Oh yeah, that comes up a bunch. And he has tangles with the trickster god Coyote.
And
Puck, who turns out to be his right-hand man this whole time.
You mean he's Xanatos' right
That's
hand.
what I meant. Yeah. So that was a thing. Yeah, I guess maybe I should have known they were voiced by the same guy. But,
No, they weren't.
oh, were they not? Oh, okay.
They were not voiced by the same guy.
I kind of assumed in retrospect. They're like, that must have been a thing they were doing this whole time.
Oh, no. That was the case for Fox's mom and Titania.
Okay.
Who were both voiced by Kate Mulgrew, a.k.a. Captain Janeway.
That's right. I knew there was another Star Trek in here somewhere.
Oh, but it gets even better because the Elisa's mom, voiced by Nichelle Nichols, Uhura.
Oh, boy.
Oh my God! There's just this. I can't really talk about this. I'm sorry. This is much less organized than I usually like to have my plot synopsis.
And we call ourselves the Randomly Reviewers, even on top of that.
But every episode tends to have connections to previous episodes or to other things that are happening in the plot. You can't really talk about one episode without talking about another 5 or 6 different episodes.
Large enough. I mean, a lot of the world tour stuff you could just kind of skip and be like, and then they went to Japan and they did stuff, and don't worry. Turns out there's gargoyles in Japan. But, like, that's all you need. But, yeah, I said to myself repeatedly as we watched this that this is ripe for a reboot. What you could do nowadays with modern animation and what you could do with streaming and knowing that people see the episodes in order, plus all the fans of Gargoyles are 25-ish years older now and could make even more complex plots if you wanted to. That could be awesome. So we'll just have to see. I don't know. They're remaking everything else. There's like another He-Man coming around, you were telling me earlier. So
Yeah.
maybe they'll get around to another Gargoyles. Could be fun. If they do it right. I don't know.
It's just a damn good show with deep, interesting plot lines. Yes, it is a children's show, but it does not talk down to the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's quite as well put together as, like, say, Batman the Animated Series.
But it's up there with.
But yeah, it draws comparisons. And I will grant you that this has more of a sense of continuity than Batman, because that was definitely meant to be episodic. So that's a point in this one's favor. I felt like we got more coherent views and a wider variety of views of, like, villain psychology in Batman. Like, every new villain would have some weird angle to what had driven them to villainy or motivated their quirks or whatever. And this was more so a lot of people just wanting revenge and being bigots and stuff, which is a fine theme. But, okay, obviously I'm comparing it to Batman. Batman's, like, way up there.
Yeah, but they also don't act as deliberate. They act more like the villains in Gargoyles tend to act more like people than the Batman villains.
I'll grant you that Batman villains have to put up a Batman scheme in order for Batman to be involved. So that's a thing.
Yeah, but, like, even the mobsters tended to act less like people in Batman than they did in Gargoyles. Where, like, sometimes the mobsters
some
would
of the
go,
turf war stuff in Gargoyles was kind of realistic.
well, even like, these guys are running away from the Gargoyles because they're not dealing with that. Or, these guys are charging at the Gargoyles. They're not, like, unified and, like, get Batman!
Maybe. But, yeah, well done. It's on Disney Plus. If you have that, you can go stream it. Just the first 2 seasons. Out of season 3, only one of them is considered at all important. The rest of them are terrible. I don't even know which one's the good one. You just mentioned it.
Let's see. No.
Broadway goes to Hollywood. Who's this about? Who knows?
No.
This is the end of it. We went through all those things.
Oh, wait, go back up.
Okay. I'm going to find see if you
no,
recognize the one.
mankind.
Okay.
The Dying of the Light, yeah, where it turns out that Hudson has a blind friend, and it turns out that blind friend knew he was a gargoyle the whole time, but he didn't freaking care, because, what's he gonna... Who'd believe him? Trust me, guys, a gargoyle was in my house!
Yeah.
I heard him!
That was neat, though, just having a blind character involved. And
he didn't show up often.
No, not often.
But he was like a plot point in City of Stone.
Yeah.
Because he didn't see it, he didn't see this magical broadcast, he wasn't turned to stone, and that gives them a clue on how to defeat the broadcast.
Right. Yeah. Just neat stuff like that. Give you doses of realism here and there. That kind of made the thing feel grounded. in the best way. If you take a fantastical premise and then you find a way to wed it to reality, then it feels that much more fascinating. It's got that combination of beyond reality, but it feels kind of realish. You know?
Yeah.
Even though every single thing has to explode at some point. Like in the last 3 episodes, there's one point where they toss a couple of people against the wall and they're electrocuted for some reason. And we're like, what electrocuted them?
Nothing was there. Nothing electrocuted them.
Those last 2 episodes we can comment on, though, too. They're doing, again, there's several layers of revenge and hatred. You've got these people who are 1,000 years worth of descendants of Demona who clawed...
No, not descendants of Demona.
Descendants of a victim of Demona who clawed this one guy in the face, and he was so pissed off about it, he inspired the next 1,000 years worth of descendants to hunt for Demona.
And all other gargoyles.
And all other gargoyles, but her especially. And
which doesn't work, because Demona is immortal thanks to a deal made with the Fae to tie her life force to Macbeth, to keep her forever young and him living as long as she does. And since she's forever young, neither of them are going to die except by the hands of the other. And do you see why we're trying to compress this? There is a lot going on in this show.
Right. Anyway, you got 3 of the latest generation who are like, all right, we're on the trail of the gargoyles. And one of them is especially gung-ho about killing them all. And another one is wondering, well, maybe just Demona is the evil one and the other gargoyles shouldn't be judged for their species. And then they end up flipping positions where the gung-ho guy realizes, no, wait, some gargoyles are nice. And the nice guy is like, you know, so consumed with revenge, he ends up accidentally shooting his own brother and then blames the gargoyles for it. And then Demona's got her own separate revenge thing where she wants to destroy the entire human race, to kill off all intelligent life, except this one totem, essentially, will keep gargoyles alive. So then Goliath smashes the totem to be like, God damn it, you either kill off both our races or neither of them. So she has to eventually say, no, okay, fine, I'll kill people.
Would that work on the Children of Oberon, or would that... Or that alien guy that they found living in Easter Island? And yes, I did just say alien living in Easter Island.
Because that's a thing.
Look, the world tour was weird.
Yes, it was. But
yeah,
several layers of back and forth. Demona's a bigot, but she also loves her own daughter, and we have...
Because that's a new character, by the way.
Angela shows up eventually, yeah. So, that's all good. And again, if you could redo this and make the things more clear than they are, make it all add up, and improve on the animation. The animation's fine, but
there's just some parts where it stutters a little bit.
Yeah, like the frame rate will go down. In some cases, the frame rate jumps up all of a sudden. Like I feel they animated slightly too much and they need to compress it to 22 minutes. So they're like, quick, just speed up that shot to like time and half speed. Little details like that, but it's a good show.
It's a good show. I advise you go watch it.
Yeah.
If you love really complex storylines and are heavy on continuity, this is a show for you. I suggested if you're also a fan of Star Wars: The Clone Wars or Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, that's the closest comparison I know. Yeah. I wanted to do a crossover between this and Batman.
I thought you meant Clone Wars for a second.
No, Batman is the closest comparison. It's in the night, not the music, which, by the way, we got to give a shout out to the music, which you did at the beginning. But there's a lot of orchestral themes.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's
often the same theme, but like it's well done.
It's the main theme over and over again, which it's well done. But when you play it on infinite repeat for every moment of the show, you kind of get a little sick of it towards the end.
I guess
just a little bit. It's not much, but it's like
the fact that they're using an orchestra at all, though, is props for the time.
Okay,
right?
That is fair.
Right, like that always kind of impressed me. Again, the sense of like, no, this has got gravitas to it. That's about it, though.
Yeah, I can't really talk
without
much.
Going through like episode by episode, one at a time. That's about what we got to say.
Yeah,
cool, complex, plotty, fun stuff.
Great characters, great voice work. All in all, we can't help but recommend this enough.
Okay.
So I guess we're done. So I'm Sith King.
I'm Sonic Sans.
Signing off.